G'day. A year or so ago when I decided that I'd like to have a small bench and a vise and somewhere to do small repairs and things, I didn't realise what I was creating was a monster, an absolute monster. And that monster, it likes to eat storage. And this house, unlike most Thai houses, don't have any storage. There's none. They don't build any into them. So it's about time I did something about taming the monster and trying to overcome what he likes to eat. So let's get on with it. You just know when your bench starts looking like this all the time that storage is an issue. When I'm a real believer in place for everything in its place, but I've just got to the point where I've accumulated so much stuff in the last year that I just don't have a place for that. So I'm going to have to do something about it. When we first moved here about 10 years ago, I built this cupboard because there was nowhere for storage, nowhere just to keep shoes and things like that. Even now you can see that half the time they're just all over the floor anyway. And I'll open those doors in a second and you will see that it's pretty much full. I only really have these 3 shelves to store stuff in here. The rest is everyone else's junk. Part of the problem with the front of our house is it's all windows and sliding doors. There's very little wall. And then a couple of weeks ago, the neighbours 2 doors down filled in that gap between their place and the next door neighbours. These are all duplexes or semi-detached as the English call them, and that inspired me to consider filling in the gap between his house and ours, which is much bigger, to give me somewhere to add some shelves and things. So I got one of the guys in the village to brick all this up and render it so that I could make some useful space out of all of that. After he'd finished rendering it, I left a week to cure properly, and then splashed a bit of paint on it, put some sealer on that bare concrete first, and then hit it up with some colour. And I've decided to freshen the whole front of the house up while we're at it and make it all look a bit better. One thing you need to remember is that my workshop is indeed the front of our house, so it always needs to look a little bit neat and tidy. When I finished that bit, I turned my attention to what I used to call crap corner, where my wife used to store everything on top of that little cupboard there. And I pulled a shelf that used to be over on the right hand end of all my benches and brought it over there, put some little legs on it to get it off the ground, and put some plywood on it, gave it a coat of paint to make it blend in with everything else and make that corner a bit neater and a bit tidier. When I finished that bit, I went back to the new piece of wall and added some shelving in there. I didn't make any shelves myself because I thought it'd be better if I had something a little adjustable and I could add another shelf in later if need be. One area I did have somewhere I could use was on the opposite side of the window from where I built the original cupboard. So I decided I'd build another cupboard over there, give me somewhere to store things in there as well. Remember, the aim here is to create storage. I also want to build another bench underneath that section over on the right hand side of the window. So I bought a sheet of formworkers ply, which is what I used on the benches and the cupboard before, and set about making myself a new cupboard, and when I'm done with that I'll build a bench. When I built the original cupboard, I used these, I don't know if you can see that properly, but they're self-drilling, self-tapping screws. And I found they work really well going into this end grain of the plywood. Great for hanging on to things. Because they're self-drilling, self-tapping, they don't make a massive mess of it. Sort that out, I might share for that work. Wish I had a big long clamp, the clamp is there. But I don't have one, so. Alright. Now I think think I'll pull them out one at a time and chamfer them later when I'm finished here. And they work great. This cupboard's a lot more open to the weather than the original one was, so I've taken my time and added some strips, sealed the edges and painted it all and fixed it up onto the wall, and it's going pretty well. Looks pretty good with those nice new doors on it. Next up will be the bench underneath this thing. We'll get on with that. Better change your mind about what I'm going to do next. I'm going to leave that bench up the other end there for a moment and make up a little folding bench for the new bandsaw. Don't know where I don't remember where I got these from, but they just fold down like that. Let them up, they lock in. They're pretty strong, and even though that thing's fairly heavy, I think they might do the job. So I'm going to make a little fold down bench for this to put my bandsaw on, so I can use it for cutting up everything to make the new benches. I'll mount whatever I make up on the wall just here, so when it folds up I've got clear space out towards the front gate where I can handle 6 metre lengths of steel and things like that. And over here on the fence I'll make up some brackets that just sit over the fence with a bit of steel projecting out here somewhere at the same height as the saw, so that I can move that up and down the fence depending on the length of whatever it is I'm cutting up. So let's get into that. Well, that's I've utilised some more of the timber I rescued from the kitchen when we had to replace it after termites had been in there. But it's a bit, she's a bit wobbly, so I might have to make up a leg that I can quickly attach to here just to support it a bit more. Well, that was easily fixed, and all with a few things that I had here. A piece of angle iron, piece of 1-inch tube, rubber foot that I already had here. This is a screw-in 6mm insert, one of these things, got a hex head and a thread on the outside to screw them in there. I had this float around in my toolbox from when I was making the new cross slides, so I just tarted that up, put a knurl on it and Loctited a piece of 6mm stainless oil thread in there, and it just goes in there like that. Screw the bowl up, and it's solid as a rock, and this can live up there in the shelf when it's not being used. Problem solved. It doesn't quite fold down as flat as I would have liked either. Just two little latches up under the sides here. Just closes down like that, so it's not quite as flat as I would like, but at least it's out of the way and serves the purpose. Alrighty, so I'm on the home stretch now. Make this bench up, it's the last major thing I've got to do, and then once we're done with that, all I've got to do is clean up this bench so I can use it as a trestle, get up and clean and paint the back of the rest of the wall behind this, around this window, and there's a little bit more sealing and stuff to finish off, and then I'm done with the painting and everything. I'll set this up so that I can work out how long everything needs to be. It's a very narrow opening down here beside the house, so at the end of the bench I'll cut that off I'll set it at 45 degrees so that it's still easy enough to get down the side of the house. It's pretty narrow as it is, and I don't need something sticking out of there in the way. The main reason I want to put this here is I started hacking up the drill press a long time ago to see if I could turn it into a mill. Decided that's a waste of time, so what I want to do is assemble the drill press back the way it was, mount it in here, and then when I build the mill it will sit just here. So I'll get on with that. I saw in a video somewhere that someone said not to use lubricant on here because it could make a blade slip, and it was slipping a little bit towards the end of some of the cuts I was making, so I might have to be not so generous with this stuff when I use it. So I've got it all cut up and set up. So it's time to tack it all together and go and make sure it fits. I'm not going to tack that centrepiece in. I'm not sure where I want to put it yet, and it'd be easy to square it up without that in there. Such fun welding around magnets. I'm glad I decided to check it. It was a bit out of whack and kind of stuffed up here. I like to have ended up around the corner of this cupboard here, but trying to maintain this freedom of movement through there, so it doesn't matter. This area here is the main part of the bench I wanted to do. It was a bit out of square before. This was 60mm here and 70mm there, so I cut up two 50mm pieces and just clamped them in there. Only had to cut this one out and this one out to relieve it, and it popped into shape, so I've just tacked it back into place there. So I can get on with it now and finish it off. All good. Right, things have been progressing along nicely. I've fitted up the bench top and I just made the top bigger than the frame I made, so that it now comes out and lines up with the end of this. So that keeps it happy, keeps that passageway through there nice and clear. I've just been working on refitting this, and part of the problem with these things, as a lot of people would know, is that they're too flexible in this area here, and when you try to push down on the whole thing just flexes and wobbles. So what I'm going to do is, well, I've already done, I've machined up these two spaces, and they try and put some bracing between the top of the base and the bench, and then I've filled this up, put underneath it, strengthen it up. So hopefully that'll improve the drill press a little. So I'll get on with that. Well, it's a long time since that bench found its way down there, probably since I first made it. But things are a little cluttered down there at the moment, so still got to find a few places for things to live in. Mind you, some of that's paint and things which will go away when I'm done. So today I need to get up, clean all those cobwebs and rubbish from up there, and paint this wall and around the window, and clean up down here and paint that section there. And you may notice this green wire here. That's something else that Thais don't put in their houses, earth leads. So I put one in back when I first started doing all this. And when I'm done painting and everything here, I'll go and get some conduit and finally put that one in there. I was stumbling around in one of the hardware stores one day and I found this earth spike, so I bought it while I could find one, because I didn't think they even had them, and fitted one up. So we've got lots of spider webs and stuff to get rid of. The paint I use here is absolute crap, so I'll give it a good scrub with a scourer and then paint it all. So that's today's job. I'll get on with it. Well, if you're still with me, thanks for hanging in there. This has been a 3 or 4 week job now, and I'm still not 100% finished. Got a little bit of painting up there to do, which can wait, and there's posts surrounded by pots. I need to shift them. But I'm pretty much there. I've achieved what I want to do. There's a bit of ply left on the wall there. I'm going to use to put some covers on the lathe. I've got my little table there for the saw, and shelving up there, which is getting pretty full. I've got some little projects to make out of that leftover timber from the kitchen. Over this crap corner is still pretty much crap corner at the moment because I'm not finished, and this paint and stuff needs to be put away, but everything's up off the floor now. Back over in here, that area there where the ladders are, that's where I had all my steel and everything just stacked against the wall, standing up, making a bloody mess and leaving rust all over the place. Speaking of rust, if you've got a cure for this, all that rust stains on the floor there, put it in the comments for me, please. I need to get that off there. Back home in Australia we have a product called CLR Clear. Sorry, it stands for calcium, lime and rust, and would remove that quite easily. But I can't get it here, and I've got lots of it to get rid of. Anyway, so it's all sort of done. Everything's painted now, and that's much cleaner. All the cobwebs are gone. Cupboard's been fully painted now. Before I hadn't got around to doing that. This bench is clear, not covered in rubbish. My trolley even has a bit of space left beside it down there. There's not too much junk stored in here. Keep an eye out for this thing. A mate gave it to me the other day. It's old and it's worn out, and I'm going to try and utilise parts of that. This is where the mill will go on here. It's a pretty solid bit of structure I built. And just a quick note about the base here of the drill press. It actually caved in a bit here when I bolted it down, and I'm wondering whether those two spaces pull into the bench top. So I'm going to get a piece of steel and put directly under this so that those two spaces can't pull into the timber. The cupboard's all there, done, and it's already full. So as you can see, there's not a lot of room left in there. I'll get the key. This one's pretty much full as well, so we haven't achieved a lot in the storage department, but it's a big help because now I've got a clean bench, which I like. That's better. Anyway, one thing I'd never really considered when I talk mini workshop, this whole thing here, my workshop in reality takes up less than 4 square metres of floor space. You don't get much more mini than that, I guess. So if you liked all this, how about giving me a like? It helps me a lot. And the other thing is, this has taken me so long to do all this. I normally have 3 or 4 videos in the bank waiting to be published. I've pretty much used them all up, so I might go missing for a week or so in the not too distant future. And I'm also going to get on with making that mill soon. And before I do that, I've got a couple of little jobs I want to do on the lathe to enable me to do things to make stuff for that mill more accurately than I used to do when I was making the lathe. So thanks for watching, thanks for hanging in there, and until next time, tooraloo.